Hello everyone, this is the fourth video in the Python beginner series and the second video about Python list. Today we will be talking about list operations, that is list joining, list replication and list slicing. So starting with the first one, that is list joining. So what is list joining? So basically list joining is somewhat similar to addition of numbers. That is how we add numbers. For example, we have to add two numbers, let's just say 2 and 3. We will simply write 2 plus 3. So similarly, for addition of list, we have to do the same thing. That is, we have to use the plus operator. So here I have created two lists of numbers. So if I want to add them, I will simply write x plus y. Now here we can see that we have got a list that contains the element of x and the elements of y in the order such that the element of the x come first and then the element of the y comes. Now, this is just a simple addition of two lists. What if we change the order of x and y? If we, in spite of writing x plus y, we write y plus x, then here we can see that the order of the elements also changes. Here we can see that the elements of y comes first and then comes the elements of x. So similarly, we can use similarly we can add multiple lists. For example, if we create a new list as C, let's just have some random values 4, 5, and let's just have a string. Now, so as I have said that we can use plus operator to add multiple lists. So we can also add three lists together. Here we can see that here we have first got the element of x, then of y, and then of c. So now, since we have learned about basics of list joining, so we can also store the result in a variable, which we have got by the addition of the list. For example, for storing the above result, that is x plus y plus c, we can simply assign it to a variable z, or the variable which you want, x plus y plus c. Sorry, I have written simply x. Let's just write it again, x plus y plus c. Now here we can see if we print the value of z, then we will get the same result as we have got here. Now, one important thing to mention that we can add a list to another list only. That is, we cannot add a list and a number, a list and a complex number, or a list or any other data type other than list. For example, if I try to do something like this, x plus 3, here x is a list and 3 is a number. So if we press enter, here we can see that Python shows an error. It says can only concatenate list to list, not integer. So concatenate is basically another word for addition. So to not concatenate means that it cannot add a list to an integer. Here I want to mention that list joining is also known as list concatenation or list addition. So this is all about list joining. Coming to the second list operation, that is list replication. So as the name suggests, here we basically replicate a list by using the multiply operator or the asterisk operator in Python. For example, if I write x asterisk 2, then it will produce a new list such that it will have repeated the list x two times. Here we can see the list x has been repeated two times in this list. As I have previously mentioned, we can also store this result in a variable. For example, if we just have a variable lst and we say x into 4. So now if we print the value of lst, here we can see it is now a list that contains x list repeated 4 times. So one important thing to mention that list can only be replicated using integer numbers. You cannot use float numbers here. So This is all about list replication or repeating list. Now coming to the last one, that is list slicing. So what is list slicing? List slicing is somewhat similar to accessing an element of a list. The difference is that when we access element of a list, we are only able to access an individual element of a list, while in list slicing, we can access a group of element of a list. For example, if I want to access the element number 1 and 2 of list X, then I will write something like this. By write the name of the list, then give the square brackets, then put a colon, then before the colon, we will give a starting index and ending index. And by doing this, Python will create a list slice out of the list X with element falling between indexes start and stop with not including the stop index, that is the last index. What do I mean by that? That is, if I want the first element of the list X and the second element of the list, then I have to give my range something like this. So as we can see, 1 has the index of 0 and 2 will have the index of 1. But here, since the last limit or the ending index is excluded, so we have to give index not as 1 but as 2. Now if we press enter, here we can see that we have got a list that contains element 1 and 2. We haven't got element 1, 2 and 3 because the last index, that is 2, will be excluded. That's how Python works. Now let's just have another example for correctly understanding the list slicing. If we take the example of list Z, so here we can see we have lot of elements in list Z. For example, now if we want elements from 3 all down to this element, then we will simply write the name of the list, that is Z, then in the square bracket put a colon, then we will give our starting index, that is 0, 1 and 2, that means it is 2, and our ending index plus 1 because the last index will be excluded. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. So its index is 7. So to include the last element, we have to increase our index by 1, that is 8. Now, if we press enter, here we can see that we have got a list slice or a part of a list starting from 3 and ending at 5. Now, we can also store these list slices in our variables for our further use. Now, since we have learned basics of list slicing, I want to talk about a third value, that is a step value. So what is a step value? Step value basically helps us to choose or skip the element in our list slices. So basically, what do I mean by that? When we do not specify the value of step, so by default in Python it is 1. That is, when we create our list slice, then every consecutive element in the range that we give in the list slice, for example here we have given from index 2 to 8, so every consecutive elements will be selected, that is starting from 3, then 5, then 6, then 7, then 4, then 5. Now, but what if I want every second element in the range that I have defined? For example, I want 3, then not 5, then 6, then not 7, then 4, like this. So how do we do that in Python? So for this, we specify step value, and we do specify the step value something like this. We give a range, then we put another colon, then we give the value of step. Now, if we give the value of step as 2, what does it mean? That whatever we have range defined for our list slice, you have to select every second element from that. For example, our list slice is this, so it will choose 3, then it will not choose 5, then it will choose 6, then it will not choose 7, then it will choose 4. So what it says that choose every second element, that means skip every one element from our list slice. Now if we press enter, here we can see that we have got 3, 6 and 4. Here we have skipped 5 and 7. Now after 4, there is no element after skipping 5, so our list slice is basically ended at 4. So that is the step value. Similarly, if we want to access every third element starting from our first element, then we can do something like this: z, then give the square bracket, give our range, and then give the step value as 3. Now what does it say is that starting from the first element, choose every third element, that is 3, then leave this, and this is the third element. So it will choose 7. After 7, leave 4, 5, and since our list slice ends here, so this list slice also ends at 7. So this is about step value. Now, coming to the last thing about list slicing is that, so in list slicing, if we specify list index out of range, then Python will not show error in list slicing. While if we while accessing individual elements of a list, if we specify index that is out of range of a list, then it will show error. What do I mean by that? That for example, if we take the example of list Z, and if I just access its first element, then it will show no error. Now, since Z contains, let me just count how many elements it contains: 7, 8, 9, and 10. So since the Z contains 10 elements, so it will have index of 0 all till index of 9. Now, what if we try to access an element at index 11? Now, if we press enter, here we can see that Python is showing an error, that is an index error, and it says list index out of range. What does it mean? That there exists no index like this in our list. Now, while in Python list slicing, if we specify something like this, 0, and then just we say 11 or 12. Now if we press enter, here we can see that it has shown no error, while it has given us elements of all the list, all starting from 0. So how it works in list slicing? So basically in list slicing, if we give an index that is out of bounds of our list indexes, then it will automatically give the element that have the index falling in our defined range. For example, Python will give all the elements as list slice which will fall between 0 and 12. That is, between 0 and 12, all the whole list falls. So in spite of showing error, Python just simply handles this thing in this way. Now let's just take another example. If we specify our index such that no element has an index that falls in our range, for example 11, and then just simply say 18. Now here we can say that we have got an empty list since no element have index that falls between the range that we have defined. Now coming to the last thing, that is, here one thing I want to mention, that just as we have worked with the positive indexes, we can also work with negative indexes as well with Python, and it will work the same. That is, all the rules, that is, the last index will be excluded in that. For example, if we quickly have an example here, if we write from -1 to -5, so here we can say, so basically we have got an empty list here because we have basically interchanged the upper bound and the lower bound. Since the negative indexing start from backwards, that is, it will have an index of -1, this will have an index of -2, and so on and so forth. So simply what we have to do is just interchange -1 and -5's position. So here we can see that we have got element from index -5 all down to index -2. If we check here, -1, -2, -3, -4, and -5. So we have got our element from 6 to 5. So that's how we can also do list slicing with negative indexes. Now, what happens if we do not specify our starting index or the ending index or the stop index? For example, if we say simply like from 0, and then we do not specify any stop index. Now if we press enter here, we can see that Python will not show any error, but by default, if we do not specify and and ending index, then Python will take the index of the last element of our list, and it will just simply start from the index that we have specified. In this case, it is 0 to all down to the whole list. Now, what if we do not specify the starting index, but we specify the last index? For example, if we do something like this. Now, if we press enter here, we can see that if we do not specify the starting index, then Python by default will take the index of the starting element of the list, that is index 0. So here our list slice contains the elements from index 0 all down to index 3, since the stop index is not included in our range. Now, what happens if we do not specify both the indexes? Here we can see if we do not specify both the index, so Python will by default take starting index, that is index 0, as the starting index, and the stop index will be taken as the index of that list plus 1. That means that the whole list will be copied as a list slice. So this is all about list slicing, and I think I will end my video here. Hope you like the video. If you like, please do subscribe, share and like. And thank you.